We're back with another Dynasty Deep Rookie Stash. As always, guys, if you like Dynasty content, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 1,400 subscribers. If you're new to the channel, well, we like to really dive deep into the rookie class, the 2025 rookie class that has just passed. Most of you are done with your rookie drafts, and we like to look at guys that were drafted in round 5, 6, 7, even undrafted as we are today. Guys that are potentially sitting out there on your waiver wire, trying to find that next kind of diamond in the rough type of player, especially for you deeper league players or you rebuilders who want to throw a bunch of younger players on your team and see who hits. These videos are for you. And today we're talking about an undrafted rookie wide receiver out of Colorado, Jimmy Horn Jr., undrafted to the Carolina Panthers. Now, he's getting some hype. He's been getting some hype lately, not related to Joe Horn, by the way, but he's been getting some hype through training, OTAs and mini camps and things like that. I see a lot of people just discussing and bringing up his name on in the Dynasty community. So I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into him and just kind of get a feel for what is his potential to break out, to be a productive wide receiver for fantasy football. You see some of the measurables there. He's undrafted, as I said. He's 5'8", 174, so he's pretty small. You see the 2024 stats there, 37 catches, 441 yards, 1 touchdown for Colorado in 11 games. And kind of productive throughout his career. He spent 2 years at South Florida and then transferred to Colorado and played there 2 years, 2023 and 2024. His best season was 2023, where he caught 58 passes, 567 yards, 6 touchdowns. And then you see some of the production numbers there. His dominator percentage, career dominator of 16%, single season high of 21%. What is dominator percentage? This is the percentage for wide receivers. It's the percentage of your team's receiving yards and touchdowns that you accounted for. So throughout his 4-year career in college, he accounted for his team's 16% of his team's receiving production. His single season high was 21% there a couple of years ago. Pretty productive player every single year. As a freshman, he had 30 catches, 400 yards, always producing, always over 400 yards, always over 30 or more catches and things like that, but never had a big, huge season. And to me, this does matter a little bit, because when you go back and look, which I did, you look at wide receivers who were successful in the NFL, kind of the one thing they all have in common is, and it seems kind of, of course, was that they produced. They just produced in college. There's very few receivers who didn't produce in college that went on to be successful in the NFL. Actually, there's only 2 since 2010 who have less than 20% dominator in their career, and that's Terry McLaurin and Jalen Waddle, just 2. And only Jalen Waddle has only Terry McLaurin would have a lower career dominator than Jimmy Horn Jr. So it's a little bit concerning, because you assume why didn't this guy produce? Why didn't he produce more in college? Was he productive? Yes, but he never was a big part of his team's offenses, whether it was at South Florida or Colorado. Obviously, he's a smaller player. He played majority in the slot last year. I think he only had, maybe less than 40 snaps out wide or not in the slot. So that's also another thing that, for fantasy, it's very rare to get pure slot players as really good fantasy producers. Does it happen? Yes. Guy like Cole Beasley comes to mind and things like that. But generally, we need our player to both play in the slot and on the outside. We want them to play in the slot because it's easy targets, but we want them to also be out there in 2 wide receiver sets. That's essentially what it comes down to. So I'm a little bit skeptical overall about his future as a fantasy producer. And he's might be one of those players he puts up numbers, he has good games. He's maybe a good bye week type of replacement type of guy. But if you're kind of starting him consistently for your team, what does that mean for your team? That probably means your team's not doing so great. You see some of the combine stuff. He actually had a pretty good combine overall. Ran a 4.46, which is, that's in the 60th percentile. His 10-yard split, 1.54, is also in the 60th percentile, the high 60th. To me, the 10-yard split is really important. It shows how fast you are within those first 10 yards. Uh, that's more valuable, in my opinion, than the 40-yard time, just because most of the time players are running 10 yards rather than 40 yards. He does have some good other drills, like his vertical was in the 80th percentile. His broad jump was almost in the 90th percentile. His hand size, obviously being a smaller player, is pretty small, 8 3/4 there. And yes, that has been studied and looked at, and that does matter for a wide receiver, which makes sense. So like overall, you see some of the analytical numbers there: yards per route run, drop percentage. Nothing really jumps off the page. Actually, all of them are not that good. Yards per route run at 1.55 is not great. His drop percentage being at 8.4% is not terrible, but it's definitely not ideal to be dropping 8.5% of your targets. Yards after catch, not great. A dot is pretty low, being that slot receiver. Contested catch percentage is really, really bad at just under 26%. That's a little concerning if you're going to be playing in the slot in the NFL. The one thing that does jump off the page is his contested target percentage, that last number there at 15%. What percentage of his targets were contested? And to me, what that shows, this is over his entire career, by the way, what that shows is that he's getting open. Right now, of course, game to game, there could be different reasons why you have a low or high contested target percentage, the type of routes you run, and things like that. By the way, this does exclude any behind the line of scrimmage passes, any wide receiver screens, pop passes, anything like that, because those are almost impossible to contest. It's really hard because you're just kind of turning, you're behind the line of scrimmage. Usually those passes are not going to be contested. So this excludes that. 15% is really, really good. It's actually a number that I do value quite a lot when it comes to evaluating wide receivers, is their contested target percentage. You look at guys over the years that had a good contested target percentage. A lot of the guys that have been good over the last few years have a really good contested target percentage. And so I definitely value that number quite a lot. Of course, there's always going to be exceptions. There's always going to be receivers that have a high contested target percentage. But you look at just some of the guys last year that had kind of a good or great contested target percentage in college. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas had his was actually a little bit high. So actually, it was right around just below average. So it was good. It wasn't great. It was good. Lad McConkey had a really, really good one. Some other guys in here as well that didn't really hit, like Aroma Dunze and Adonai Mitchell and things like that. But generally, the guys with a really high contested target percentage, it can be a little bit concerning. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a high one. He didn't hit year one. Keon Coleman had a really high one. That's always a thing with him. Can he create separation? Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk. These are just some names out there that had really high contested target percentage, which again means they weren't creating separation. So the one thing I do like about him, the one kind of redeeming quality about Jimmy Horn Jr. is that, he's getting open. He is getting open, which is obviously due to, in my opinion, his route running. He has pretty good, really good route running especially from the slot, which is going to translate to the NFL. A lot of times things like speed, don't translate. Getting open, running, being a great route runner, that translates. He ran a lot of different routes in college, which I love. I like guys who can kind of run the entire route tree, not just run hitches and go routes. He also has good speed. His straight line speed, to me, is better than it feels better than a 4.46. 4.46 is good, but it feels like it would be even higher potentially. So he can maybe kind of play that vertical slot role a little bit as well, which is obviously going to be valuable to teams. And he's just really good in kind of the zone coverage and kind of faking out defenders, with the head fakes and jukes and things like that. And that's why he gets open a lot. Now, what are the concerns? Production. We've already talked about it. Size is going to be a concern. I know the NFL is more forgiving these days when it comes to size. We see a lot more smaller players be really successful in the NFL. It's not that you have to be 6'3", 215 like it was 20 years ago. We're seeing guys with a smaller frame produce. That being said, it's still going to be a concern, and you still going to be at a disadvantage. You just have to win in other ways. But I think it's going to really limit that, and his lack of experience on playing on the outside is really going to limit his versatility, and it's probably going to limit him to the slot for the most part. So That's really the biggest thing. That and just his ability to make catches in traffic over the middle of the field, which is why his contested catch percentage is quite low. Ideally, we want to see that number like around 45 or 50%. So to be at 25% is like really, really bad. And you just kind of picture in your head like slot routes. It feels like a lot of times those can be contested. You got to make those tough catches. His drop percentage combined with his contested catch percentage is not ideal. So overall, I think he probably fits in at the slot. I don't really see a year one type of breakout from him because that's a pretty crowded receiving room with veteran wide receivers and young wide receivers that I think at this point in their career are just better than Jimmy Horn Jr. And to me, breaking out first year is so important for these undrafted guys that you're going to try and stash because what are you going to do when it comes to the next draft class and you have all these other guys that like you want to stash? You're probably going to cut someone that didn't produce, someone who was undrafted and didn't produce in the NFL year one. You're probably just going to end up cutting. And so that for that point, he's going to be sitting out there on the waiver wire. It almost doesn't matter what he does in year two or year three, unless you're going to be holding on to him or you get him back. So, Adam Thielen plays a lot in the slot for this team and he produces. I don't really see this team going away from Adam Thielen unless he gets hurt. You obviously have guys like Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, even some tight ends there like Jatavian Sanders. There's a lot of like young potential on that team mixed with older veteran guys. Even Hunter Renfrow is there who, we haven't seen Hunter Renfrow for a year or two, but he's also there and he projects to be in the slot. So there's kind of an uphill battle for Jimmy Horn, in my opinion, to even make the team. Again, Ted McMillan's going to make the team. Xavier Legette's going to make the team. Jalen Coker is going to make the team, I believe. Adam Thielen's going to make the team. There's already 4 receiver spots. And so most teams carry 5 or 6. So it's going to be tough for Jimmy Horn. There's like 1, maybe 2 receiver spots open, and you still got to compete with other guys, like a Hunter Renfrow, like a David Moore senior or junior, I forget. So overall, I don't really see a year one breakout. He probably spends most of the year on the practice squad. Fun player, and you can see the potential if he does get the opportunity. It's just an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle with his size. It's an uphill battle with his lack of experience playing on the outside. And it's an uphill battle to even make the team. And I think all of that combined is if you play in a deeper league and you want to stash Jimmy Horn, that's fine. I think I would be targeting other players, specifically running backs that we put out. We already have 4 or 5 of these videos out on the channel, so check them out. I generally want to go more for running backs just because I think it's easier for them to get that opportunity. So appreciate everyone for watching. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button as always, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.